The United States just dropped bombs on Syria once again. The Biden administration stressed that this bombing in Syria had nothing to do with the genocide of the Palestinians that they are supporting. The United States just likes bombing Syria for the love of the game. The United States is claiming that they are bombing Syria because Iranian-backed groups were attacking United States soldiers in Syria and Iraq. What the United States and the corporate media won't tell you is that United States soldiers are in Syria and Iraq illegally. Both Iraq and Syria has asked the United States to leave their country repeatedly. Not only that, the United States steals Syria's wheat and it steals 80% of Syria's oil production. Despite this, the Biden administration and the media is framing the Syria bombing as self-defense. Our government is the biggest fucking gaslighters on the planet, man. So the Biden administration is now threatening war and more bombings if Iran-backed attacks on U.S. soldiers in Syria and Iraq continue. The problem is, there's no evidence that Iran was involved in this. As I mentioned before, the United States steals the resources and illegally occupies Syria. So there's many people in Syria and Iraq who have reasons to attack and dislike the presence of American soldiers. The United States is using this as a pretext to launch the war against Iran that they wanted for a very, very long time. So we have the proxy war in Ukraine, the United States bombing Syria, the Palestine genocide supported by the West, and U.S. and NATO allies preparing for war against China over Taiwan. You guys see how the bloodthirst of the West is never satisfied?
We live in an era of mass genocidal psychosis. An extremely crazy era to live in. And I've seen a lot. But last night, looking at the slaughter of the Palestinians, of the children in Gaza, there are numbers that show around 7,000 dead. I'm going to pull out the official number, but I remember it's around 3,500 children are dead, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. And this was enabled by every single United States senator, by every single corporate media talking head. We showed you guys yesterday. We showed you guys Fox News yesterday. We showed you guys MSNBC yesterday. Both selling the same idea that every Palestinian is Hamas. That 3,500 children being slaughtered by Israel is just A-okay. If this does not radicalize the world, humanity is fucked, fam. I saw on Twitter yesterday, man, I'm not even down for debating this shit no more. I'm ready to throw hands. Like, the fuck? We're going to debate someone that see what the hell is going on in Gaza right now. Like, you have Gaza that's burning. The videos and pictures that a lot of them I've been trying to avoid. The death and destruction is unbelievable. When we're supposed to debate these people, I'm ready to throw hands. I'm going to be real. How can you not? Someone said 7K children. Let me pull the official numbers. Dude, the numbers moving too fast. Like, God knows how many people died last night. God knows. The biggest slaughter, the single mass slaughter event in my lifetime probably happened last night. And people just talking about ordinary shit. I mean, every single Biden voter voted for this. Is this harm reduction? Do you think the Palestinians and Muslims all over the world, do you think they're happy? Do you think they're satisfied? Well, yeah, we're getting genocided, but thank God it's not Trump doing it. Thank God that we've been gently genocided by the nice Democrats. Do you think that's what they're saying? We're going to have my brother, my friend on Noah, the co-director for Midwestern Marx, a fellow Marxist like myself. I rejected social democracy. I rejected democratic socialism. I went farther left when Bernie lost. A lot of people in the Bernie coalition who are now genocide enablers because of their positions, they were so defeated by the system, they shifted to the right after Super Tuesday. I snapped. I doubled down and shifted further to the left. And I realized the failure of social democracy and democratic socialism is what we are seeing right now. What we are seeing right now. You have social democrats who made a devil's bargain with liberals because they had the belief, they have the idea that whenever shit got real, liberals would side with us over the neocon Republicans. I argued with Vosh and many other social democrats on this issue. The idea is absurd. Liberals will never side with you over the capitalist, bloodthirsty neocons. So they make the devil's bargain of supporting liberals in their state violence, capitulating on very important issues like Israel-Palestine, like the police state, and many others. Because they think they're going to get crumbs. And they think if things ever got really crazy, they will have our back over the conservatives. And I am pro-vote shaming, and I am going to take this time to let people understand their mistake. Because people made a devil's bargain with Jim Crow Joe, and now those same people are watching horror as Jim Crow Joe enables and is complicit with the genocide because of the political capital and power that you guys gave them. Exactly what my uneducated ass warned you motherfuckers about. Not even complex theory, just basic political shit. If you look at Biden's history, Jim Crow Joe, the guy who wrote the crime bill, the guy who helped to stabilize the Middle East, supported every single war and every single genocide in United States history, and you guys thought he was going to change at the tender age of 80? And I seen MSNBC, CNN coverage. I read a few corporate media articles on this because I don't like to straw man my enemy. I think as a commentator, I do a better job when I know exactly what my enemy is saying, and then we debunk them, right?
Exactly. And how is it that they never do the same thing to us? By the way,
Never. You see, you gotta notice everyone who drop an RBN diss track, like Black Power Media and others, they never show a clip of us speaking. They just, hey guys, believe me when I say RBN says this. Believe me. Meanwhile, whenever we respond or do any diss track or anything, you guys notice we show you guys what the fuck they say with receipts. And then I'm in Jackie. She was like, "Oh my god, the RBN, they made fun of my article, nigga. We read your article out loud to the class, and that shit was funny. I didn't straw man your article. We read that shit out loud, and it was dumb. That's what we do. I think that's how you do it with integrity.
Of course.
Go ahead.
Like every time, and we've been canceled a million times at the Institute too. Every single time someone's come up to me and be like, "Oh, Midwestern Marx, aren't you guys so and so?" I've never heard a thing like they begin by lying about what we say. I'm like, we've never said that. We never thought that. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know?
You gotta see my stance where I unapologetically defend Hamas' ability to defend themselves. Meanwhile, you still have morons that say RBN trying to appeal to the right wing and the white left. Like they say stuff that's so absurd. I'm like, thank God I have the dumbest, most morally bankrupt fucking enemies out there. They only make me look better. They only help me grow. That's all it is. So I love to see it. As we bring real news like this, we explain what our empire is actually doing as our critics are propping up the Democratic Party and other people, right? You have Joe Biden, who is one of the most insane genocidal leaders in my lifetime. And I am not exaggerating here. That is not anywhere near an exaggeration. When I say since 1991, in my lifetime, there has not been a more genocidal, crazy leader like Joe Biden. If you say George W. Bush or anyone else, guess who was there helping him do that?
Mm-hmm.
And now he gave Israel the green light. I'm gonna show you guys the statement where they say, "Oh, Israel doesn't owe apology to anyone," right? So you have they supporting a genocide against the Palestinians. You have them provoking World War III against the nuclear power in Russia, arming Nazis in Ukraine. They're arming separatists in Taiwan in order to promote a war against another giant superpower in China. They're sending nuclear submarines to Australia and Japan, while Japan has leadership of the far right party that does not apologize for the sins of Imperial Japan. So he's essentially sending weapons to Imperial Japan. He bombed Somalia. He helping Israel bomb Lebanon, and now they're bombing Syria as a team. Because as Israel genociding the Palestinians, they are also bombing Syria and Lebanon. You guys see the obsession with war that Biden has? Go ahead, Noah.
No, I'm just saying, and all of this is on our dime. They increase prices, increase taxes, and keep interest rates low in order to keep the investment going on, in order to keep extraction coming from regular people up into the government so they can send this money away.
Absolutely. And I watch every single corporate news segment on this. I've seen, not everyone, I see a few. And I read a few articles. And every single one is vague as hell on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these headlines here. And I'm going to tell you guys what they're not telling you. U.S. strikes Iran-linked sites in Syria after attacks on American troops. Now, there's another one. There's a headline I put up earlier. Biden warns Iran against targeting U.S. troops in the Middle East. Where? Targeting troops where, sir? Biden responds to Iran-linked attacks with airstrikes. Fears of a wider war grow. So the United States, they illegally occupy Syria and Iraq. And as I explained in my hotspot video, these headlines, you can find 1,000 of these, just repeating what the State Department said. At no point, Noah, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, but at no point did they ever produce evidence that Iran was coordinating these attacks. There's no evidence of that. So you have the United States government that's stealing the wheat of Syria, 80% of Syrian oil, and the Syrian government and Iraq government has requested the United States to leave multiple times. So there's quite a few people who have reasons to attack United States soldiers who are once again illegally occupying Syria. You guys notice how RBN and Midwestern Marx, we're like the only people who quote law. People just go with the vibes. Israel is a terrorist state. Hamas is compliant with the UN Charter with the right to armed resistance. The United States is illegally occupying Syria. The Syrian government invited Russia. So you guys see who is the West is the one who act out of compliance with international law. International law is fake and fuck. And I'll pass right to you, Noah. And that's shown by Israel. Israel, with their genocide of Palestinian people, wanted to prove and wanted to test how real international law really was. They've been getting away with crime after crime because of the United States for years and years. So they're doing it like, fuck it, let's test it. And it's clear as day, international law is fake as hell. Exactly what we guys been telling you. Noah, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, one thing that really strikes me is how vague all of the wording is. What is an Iran-linked attack?
Yeah.
Right? They do this on purpose, and they train journalists to talk like this in order to create that vagueness so that the narrative that they've already been constructing over the last 10 years or so fills in the blanks for you. And you don't have to think. You read that headline and it just kind of clicks.
Absolutely. You guys see speaking of headlines, you see the ridiculous. How after condemning Putin and Russia for so long, as Israel is bombing, how do you gently say, how do you very gently inform your readers that the president they are trying to sell you as a lesser evil, as a great man, is bombing another country illegally? This is CNN. Biden threads a needle. Biden threads a needle with U.S. strikes. Very interesting.
That dude ain't threaded. That guy hasn't threaded a needle in a very long time. Like, look at that face. Those hands, they ain't threading any needles, my friend.
Bro, imagine if I hit up a 7-Eleven, kicked in the dough and waved in the fofo, and emptied out the cash register. And then the Kansas City local news organization said, Nick Cruz threaded a needle in 7-Eleven.
You know what? Let's go with that analogy, right? And then let's say that the guy behind the register pulls a gun and shoots you, and then you got a news guy outside talking about Nick's right to exist. Right?
I really want you guys to start viewing stuff like this. You know what I mean? I treat politicians the same way that you guys treat customer service workers when they get your order wrong. You guys are mean as hell. I worked in customer service for a very long time. You guys are mean as hell. Any mistake, you guys are lashing out. Meanwhile, you got the corporate media and politicians who lie, promote genocide, and y'all apologize for them. Y'all vote for them. You guys hold them to a lower standard than the workers you guys say are not high skilled enough for a proper living wage. Someone explain that to me. Biden threads the needle with U.S. strikes. Go ahead, though, if you want to chime in.
No, it's like at this point, it's so well known that it's sort of a given they're lying to a good degree that we never put this whole, like, everyone in America, anyone you ask, you go, hey, can you trust the media? They're going to tell you no, right? But it's just so well known that each time it actually happens, and when we get into the realm of like a concrete lie they're in the process of putting forward, all that abstract, like you can't trust the media, goes out the window. And they're like, oh yeah, why wouldn't they be lying about this? Why wouldn't Hamas bomb all these hospitals themselves, right?
I just read a few paragraphs. I just read headlines. I want you guys to hear the tone of the article. I think you guys are smart enough to pick up how why it's bullshit. The United States intended to send a strong message to Iran with strikes against pro-Tehran militia groups in Syria. And where, Noah? Once again, a very, very interesting question the journalists never asked. Like, where? But imagine if there were Chinese troops in Kansas City. Just marching and shit. We controlling the resources, stealing wheat and oil and shit, whatever. And then the United States attacks those people who obviously doing some illegal shit. And then you guys are like, oh my God, you guys are killing Chinese soldiers on American soil. How dare you? Do you guys understand how fucking ridiculous our country is? This is someone who is considered a very deeply serious journalist. I'm the unserious, uneducated college dropout. This is the serious journalist.
How do they even have jobs? I mean, if I were an editor, I would not look at this. It's garbage. But it's like, did you see that there was a tweet that Daniel Dumbrell put out where he basically gave the exact situation and put it in Maine? And he's talking about how the government's like turning off all of the electricity to Maine and making a corridor to escape into Canada. It was hilarious. It's exactly the same thing. And you know what's funny? A bunch of guys I work with were all like asking me, like, why should I care about Palestine? Why should I care that this is even going on? Shouldn't we, just worry about the US? And I'm like, well, you kind of got a point, but how would we feel? People came into Cleveland and just started taking our houses, right? Just kicked all of us out. And then when we fight back, they talk about their right to exist in our houses, right? And calling what we're doing aggression. It just doesn't make sense. And that actually, like that parallel got them all on board. And like they were at a demonstration with me a couple days ago.
Yeah, well said. I'm gonna just read the intro part here, and then we can move on. The next time I'm gonna discuss the slaughter and the genocide going on in Gaza right now. There's like way too much receipts. I gotta be careful because I gotta be careful what I show on YouTube. So there's some stuff I'm not gonna be able to show because it's horrifying, fam. And no, feel free if you have anything you want to share, just put it in private chat. I can share it. But I'll continue. I'll start from the beginning here. The United States intend to send a strong message to Iran with strikes targeting against pro-Tehran groups in Syria that have targeted American troops, while seeking to avoid a dangerous regional escalation amid Israel's war with Hamas. They are not doing that. And they said the United States intended to send a strong message while at the same time threading the needle of avoiding a dangerous regional escalation. That is not what the United States is doing. If there's no regional escalation, it will be because of Syria and Iran and many other of the United States enemies showing massive restraint as they always do. But let me continue. By targeting an ammunition storage area on Thursday night United States time, Washington sought to make clear that recent drone and rocket attacks that caused minor injuries to 21 U.S. soldiers in Iraq and Syria will not go unanswered. They never see. If you're a journalist, this is the part where you say the United States is there illegally, stealing the resources of that country. This is the bully that shoves the kid into the locker, steals the lunch money, and that kid throw a left hook, and then he tells the teacher on him. There's not something going unanswered. Their initial attack was retaliation of your guy's criminal behavior. And this is how the West always operate. They do criminal ass shit, and then whenever they get checked, then they say, okay, we gotta retaliate now. And now war is escalated. And dumbasses in the suburbs, like, oh my God, look how evil Iran is, and Hamas and all these people. They started shit. I am not a pacifist. If you start shit, I'm gonna finish it. I'm not gonna start it, but I will finish it.
And they always go to the same exact way of doing it. They frame the people they attack as terrorists, and then they begin at the point where they fight back as if that's the beginning of it, right? But who else do they call terrorists? I mean, all through history, they call all kinds of heroic Nelson Mandela, they called a terrorist.
Absolutely.
Fred Hampton, they called a terrorist. John Brown, they called a terrorist. All of these people they called terrorists.
Yep. And people go along with it because their minds are colonized. I just read the last part because it's hilarious. Actually, no, the second part is kind of hilarious too. But the action is also risky because of soaring tensions as Israel pounds Gaza after October 7 terror attacks against Israeli citizens launched by Hamas. Because that what started it. Not the fact that 2022 was the deadliest year ever for Palestinians. Not that. Not the constant raids on mosques, the execution of Shireen Abdul-Akleh and many other journalists, the rank violations of human rights that we've seen go on in Gaza. Not that. It is random terrorist attack that came out of nowhere. It's absurd. That conflict.
They're all random, Nick. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
They just hate Jews. I mean, they're out here like calling me names for being a Jew all the time.
Yeah, and once again, the Zionists are the biggest anti-Semites because we're gonna get to that very soon. You mentioned to me that you are Jewish, and like many others, Katie Hopper and Max Blumenthal have been very vocal, been speaking out against it. You had thousands of Jews that were protesting earlier. I'm gonna get to that later today. Once again, we got a lot of stuff to cover today. To this point of this article, the Biden administration made it clear that this bombing, because it was the initial thought when it happened, is this because of the Israel bombing Syria as well, because of the Hamas war? But no, this is because the United States has been accusing Iran of attacking U.S. soldiers since the start of October 7th. Once again, this is what the Biden administration said. What's the evidence of this? And even if Iran bat group attacked you in Syria, that is not evidence that came from Iran. Those are just people who want to resist their occupier. Do you understand? But that conflict has provoked fears of a regional war that can draw in Iran, Lebanon, and other proxy groups. So the article, while they're trying to say, like, man, Biden made this great aggressive move, but he also threading a needle because it's kind of dangerous here. No, it's just straight up absurd and fucking psychotic that Biden is doing this on top of the other stuff he's doing. And I'm gonna read the last part because this is actually no, the last two paragraphs. I'm sorry, I keep saying hilarious stuff here. Joe Biden shows strength could set off its own cycle of consequences that could rock a region already on edge. While the U.S. is underscoring that strikes have nothing. Yeah.
Can you read that first sentence again? That is the dumbest sentence I've heard in a long time.
All right, I'll read it again, and then you can explain. President Joe Biden shows strength could set off its own cycle of consequences that could rock a region already on edge. It's absurd.
They have to frame it as if Joe Biden is heroically coming to the rescue, right? His show of strength, which is basically attacking the people defending themselves, right? No shit, it's already on edge in that region. It's because our military is there that the region is on edge in the first place. So this show of strength is nothing more than murdering people in their home.
Yeah. While the United States, and this is what I mentioned earlier, is underscoring that the strikes have nothing to do with the confrontation between Israel and Hamas, such distinctions may be blurred in Arab nations, where public fury is mounting over the death of Palestinian civilians in the Israeli airstrikes in Gaza. And this is what the United States has been saying. The United States actions, which were narrowly tailored self-defense. So the occupying country is now acting in self-defense when they bomb the country they're occupying? Do you guys see how absurd the West is? This is CNN. I'm not pulling some crackpot. This is mainstream publication shit here. But RBN is considered the radical crazies according to Mediaite. Mediaite ranked us the most radical leftist media organization in the country. And they also ranked us as crazy motherfuckers. Look at what CNN is saying. It's just repeating that occupying power is bombing in self-defense. It's absolutely absurd. I got to end it there. I can go on this article all day. But yeah, go ahead. No, if you got to check in out for free. We do this all the time. It's very chill here at RBN. For free.
Yeah, I will be right back, brother.
Yeah. I'm going to show you guys this. Aaron Mate, who is really well known and respected for his amazing work in Syria. So I'm gonna end the segment on this because I really gotta move on. I can run on this all day. This is here's Aaron Mate. The Biden administration has bombed Syria in response, it says, to attack on United States forces. What Biden or the United States media won't explain is why United States forces are really in Syria, even though a senior United States official has done so very clearly. So this is the Pentagon Dana Stroll. So I'll play the clip here because I don't want to spoil it, because this is him. That's his intro, so let's play the clip.
The United States still had compelling forms of leverage on the table to shape an outcome that was more conducive and protective of U.S. interests. And we identified 4. So the first one was the 1/3 of Syrian territory that was owned via the U.S. military with its local partner, the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now, this was a light footprint on the U.S. military, only about 1,000 troops over the course of the Syria Study Group's report. And then the tens of thousands of forces, both Kurdish and Arab, under the Syrian Democratic Forces. And that 1/3 of Syria is the resource-rich, it's the economic powerhouse of Syria. So where the hydrocarbons are, which obviously is very much in the public debate here in Washington these days, as well as the agricultural powerhouse. But we argued that it wasn't just about this 1/3 of Syrian territory that the U.S. military and our military presence owned, both to fight ISIS and also as leverage for affecting the overall political process for the broader Syrian conflict. The United States still had compelling forms of leverage.
Is a country ran by arms dealers and pirates.
You hear her give it away right there. The reason they're doing this is to affect the overall political process in Syria. And why do they do that? What's the point of any of all of this? Money.
Absolutely. So I finished Aaron's tweet there, because now you guys heard what she said. He says, according to Pentagon Dana Stroll, the U.S. military is there so that the United States can own Syria's resource-rich northeast. These are things they just say among themselves. This is what we did on Saturday. This is how the professional managerial class and the rowing class talk among each other, I guess. Can you imagine what they say off camera, like on Thanksgiving dinner? And this is what you just saying on camera. Go ahead.
That's why they hated Trump so much, because he said all that stuff on camera.
Absolutely. He said where the oil and wheat is to give U.S. leverage over Syria's political future, meaning regime change. This is why Biden has put U.S. troops in harm's way in Syria, and this is why he's bombing it. Imagine if you're a young, naive, colonized mind person in the United States who want to serve your country. You want to do good, right? You young, naive. You went to a school where there's no critical race theory, no history actually being taught there. So you think the United States military does good in the world. And all of a sudden, you protecting the piracy of the United States government in Syria. And that's why these veterans come home like, what the fuck did I just do over there? PTSD like a motherfucker.
Some of my best friends are veterans. That's exactly what they said. One of my, a close friend of mine, his sort of line he would always give was that he was a thug for the U.S. government, right?
Yeah.
Literally attacking people with more in common to him than his commanding officer would ever have.